If you're learning a new language that has some difficult pronunciation in it, well, you ain't seen nothing yet. Prepare to have your mind blown by 13 languages with the craziest, most challenging pronunciation on the planet. My name's Olly Richards, and with 8 languages under my belt and tens of thousands of students taught, I know that the struggle with pronunciation is real. So here we're going to tackle pronunciation head on with some insider tips and techniques so that you can sound more native in the language that you're learning, or at least give it your best shot.
Combien sont ces 6 saucissons-ci? Ces 6 saucissons-ci sont 6 sous.
If English is your native language, it's going to be very difficult for you at first to make certain sounds in French.
Ooh la la.
Especially the French R, the R, and the nasal vowels. They're a real pain until you get used to them.
This is not déjà vu, it's déjà vu. That is not croissant or croissant, it's croissant. Croissant.
With nasal vowels, instead of pushing the air through your mouth, you push it up through your nose. But the real nightmare in French is when you put certain vowels together and they completely change their sounds.
Hey, you make the sound O. O-I is pronounced wa. EU sounds like the letter I in French.
Quincaillerie.
One French word is a perfect storm of tricky sounds that don't exist in English. Know what it is?
Écureuil.
Écureuil.
Yes, I did.
Écureuil. Always look at the different sound in a word in French if you can't pronounce it.
Good advice, and better not complain about the écureuil and the quincaillerie. How did I do? I'm starting you off easy here. It's the rest of my list that you really have to worry about. But by the way, French people can't say it in English either.
Ah, t'as vu? Il y a un squirrel.
Danish has a few tricky sounds, but there's one sound that has a really bad reputation, and Danes love to have a bit of fun trying to get tourists to say it.
Rod,
And I'm not the only one who thinks Danish sounds impossible.
Danish is notoriously hard to learn to pronounce.
Yeah, well, that's exactly how it is supposed to sound. If you want to know where this weirdness came from, you can watch my Danish video a little bit later. There's a cool Viking story in there. Anyway, Danish has 2 Ds, and the soft one is the problem. Your mouth has never ever made this shape to speak English, so you literally have to teach your muscle memory a new trick.
Let's try and say mal, like in English. Just say it like you're used to mal. And now instead of the tongue up for the L in the end, you put the tongue down. Instead of mal, you say mal. So what we can use in the beginning instead of willpower is physical power. L.
You make like an L sound, but instead of putting your tongue there, you put it behind your bottom teeth. So,
In other words, you start from a sound that you already know. Remember that one? Very good pronunciation strategy right there. Unless, well, what if it's something else and not a sound at all? Stay tuned. Have you ever tried to make an F sound without your teeth touching your lips? Go on, give it a try. From now on, no more training wheels. Let's see if you can guess which language each sound belongs to. Now, there's a really cool thing that linguists like to play around with. There are symbols that represent all of these speaking sounds, the sounds that we can make in human languages, because clearly the alphabet itself cannot be trusted. And this one means the F sound you just heard. Isn't it awesome? The hardest part is when it comes before a U. So you go from a no voice sound to a U sound, like this. Well, there you go. It's a sound in Japanese, Maori, Bengali, and an African language that I cannot pronounce. Oops. So it's not fu or fu. It's halfway between fu and hu. The matching Japanese character is this one right here.
Futari. Futatsu.
Come to think of it, you might hear this sound in some parts of central and northern Spain too, especially when people speak fast, where afuera becomes afuera. You see, it's in there somewhere. So is it worth learning? Yeah, I think so. And is it worth subscribing to this channel? You bet it is. It's like elections out here, guys. Come on, every single vote counts. Please hit those buttons and help me reach my goal of 1 million subscribers. We are going to get there sooner or later. Now, next up is a sound that is a little bit of a rebel in the language world. If you ever wanted to try ventriloquism,
Can you do that?
without moving your mouth?
I haven't, but if you ever have, well, you're in the right place for a head start. It's all about controlling your muscles to create sounds without moving your lips very much.
Adla, ad, geri, rund, marai.
Yep, it's a sound I'm sure you know very, very well.
Hello, how are you? I'm under the water. Please help me.
Can I borrow your phone? I ran out of data.
Want to know how to do it? Of course you do.
So it's not R sound, neither it's D sound. It's somehow in the middle, something like you pronounce American or you pronounce America, American. So that sound, you know, lurka.
Believe me, that sound can get even harder, and I'm going to prove it. Say the word ladder, but try to roll the R on your palate like this.
Yeah.
What a sound, right? If you say you can do it, well, sorry, I don't believe you, unless you speak an Indian language called Toda. The first language you heard was Sindhi, and Sindhi has similar call tricks to Vietnamese.
Bơi, bạn, ba bewa.
I love that sound. It's a fun one. You want to try it? Imagine trying to say b while sucking air into your mouth instead of pushing it out. That's the idea. Totally normal in South Asia. And if you're learning a language with extremely difficult sounds, it's a good idea to tackle these sounds from the very, very start. Now, our next language has a sound that only exists in 4.2% of the world's languages. Best part is, I once spent quite a long time trying to master it myself.
What's the strangest sound you could possibly make that doesn't sound human? Ein.
Ba'd means after. Fa'ala, it's the verb to do, to make. Ma'sara, I don't know.
Languages from this part of the world have some unbelievable sounds that tend to scare the living daylights out of new English-speaking learners, and this one doesn't even exist in most languages. Superhuman precision of the throat muscles required.
I know it's wrong, so please help me. Tell me how to pronounce it. I struggle with words like adad, asfura, the word ain. I can't say that properly.
But I had a good crack at it when I was living in Cairo back in 2015, so I promise you it is more or less possible.
Try to do like this. Try to say ah and continue, just letter A, ah, and then reduce the airflow with your hand. Choke yourself in simple words. Slowly. When you do this movement here, you will be able also to do it without your hand.
You can also think of a rock band trying to rev up a crowd. So imagine a rock band singer is trying to say Allah, but instead of saying Allah, they're trying to rev up the crowd with Allah. You hear it?
So this is the Arabic ayn, and it's just the beginning of sounds in Arabic. Arabic also has the qa sound.
Qa. Can you say qa in Greenlandic? In our Greenlandic language, we have many cues.
Yeah, in Greenlandic, they do it too. In fact, if we had to stretch that sound even further back in the throat, things might get crazy, leaving Arabic in the dust. Listen. That's some serious throaty Mayan language all the way from Guatemala. But why are all these sounds so hard for us? Well, the only thing we have to go on is the set of sounds that we've been hearing and making since we were babies. So both your brain and your mouth literally don't know a thing about them until you rewire them. That's why you need to listen a lot to the language you're interested in every day to get your ears tuned in. And if you're keen to work on your pronunciation, you might enjoy story learning, where real language learning begins, because the best secret is to learn a language from the inside. So you're not just trying to mimic the sounds, but to sound really natural when you're speaking, so that you can start telling your own stories in an interesting way instead of worrying about the pronunciation all the time. And here at StoryLearning, we teach languages through stories, because stories bring the language to life, and they quite literally rewire your brain and train up your vocal cords so that over time you can make these difficult sounds without any effort at all. It's quite something, and if you'd like to find out how you can do this, you should check out my free story learning kit, which will teach you exactly how the story learning method works. There's a link in the description below, or you can scan this very cool QR code if you're watching on your TV, which many of you actually are, which I think is really, really cool. Now, are you ready for something deadly? Whoa. Now, what was that? Let me put it this way. The sounds of this language are so hard to pronounce that there's a legend that the king once made everyone say a tricky line to weed out spies. Those who couldn't pronounce the word had their heads cut off. But which sounds are the hardest?
Whack.
Latakik.
Loklawek? What?
Okay. A lot of them are utterly impossible. Problem is, some sounds are so similar that practicing out loud can sound like you're trying the same word in two different accents.
You told me. You say little piggy. You don't say proszę. You say proszę. Proszę. Look at my mouth. It's not she. It's she. Sh.
See what I mean? One means please, the other means pig, and you probably don't want to get those mixed up. That's the trouble with this language. You have to say very similar sounds right next to each other. Now, try this on for size.
It's źdźbło. Źdźbło, it's actually a piece of grass. Źdźbło trawy. Źdźbło, małe źdźbło. Chrząszcz brzmi w trzcinie, w Szczebrzeszynie. Or w Szczebrzeszynie chrząszcz brzmi w trzcinie.
Ouch! So, not too many vowels then. Guys, don't let obstacles like this scare you. Look at the sound from different angles, the way it looks, the way it sounds, and get a detailed explanation too. YouTube can often be a great help with that. Who guessed the language, by the way?
You can speak Polish, alright? A rozentuzjazmowany chrząszcz zauważył źdźbło żółtej żółci posprzedażowej.
Well, that's great, but 6-year-olds and 96-year-olds in most of the world are very happy the next sound does not exist in their language at all.
I think it's good. You think or you think? Oh.
Well, I bet you never saw this one coming. It may come as a shock to you, but the TH sounds that we use every day are actually pretty rare in world languages. If you ask me, some dialects ditched it long ago.
Brava, bova, mother.
The or the, which are different sounds, are very difficult sounds to make if you are not a native English speaker. And what makes it even worse is when you have to say words where the th sound comes at the end, like sixth.
Sixth. So like a snake.
Can you do it right? Come on, you can tell me. This combination of X and th is hard even for us English natives. So most people just end up saying six or sixth, but it's actually sixth. So I guess the real difficult sound here is xth. How do you say it? Confessions in the comments. Now, hardest and rarest aren't exactly the same thing. So would you like to hear the rarest sound, which happens to also be really hard? Sorry. This language has lots of very hard sounds, but none could take down this one in a battle to the death. Now, word of warning here, if you think it sounds just like a Spanish R, sorry, Spanish R isn't going to cut it. Listen again.
Czech, Czech, which has two R's with a hat in a row, which is crazy, but you got this.
Helps to have the visuals there, doesn't it? It's like trying to say the word measure with a trill on the j part. Give it a go. Now, believe it or not, this is the rarest of all sounds in human languages, according to a Guinness World Record. I am not so sure, but then I know what's still on the way. The sound is the R with horns, only found in one major language.
Řekl, talíř, bouřka, řemeslo.
If you guessed Czech, well, you're dead right. The sound is so tricky that they even have a fairy tale about a princess who can't get it right.
Jmenuje se O princezně, která ráčkovala.
An excellent tip with sounds like this is to break them up and train your mouth muscles one step at a time. So you start with the smallest sound chunks and you work your way up to the fuller sound and then eventually to shorter sentences.
Now say three. Three, three, three. Say them quietly and slowly close your teeth. Three, 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 three. Now you have the word three in Czech. Three.
Not so bad, right? Wrong. Well, whatever you think of it, prepare to be humbled. Here comes a sound that only a tiny fraction of the world can pronounce. Did you see that word? It has 3 O's in a row, and this word ends in 3 I's. Imagine trying to learn this pronunciation, and if you attempt to speak this language, you'll only have very few sounds to get your point across with. But don't be fooled, the language has an absolute ton of different ways you can combine these sounds, and the vowels themselves carry meaning. So the real challenge might be Well, how do you combine the sounds? After all, friend and enemy are the exact same word with slightly different tones. In fact, listen to this. The language relies so much on tone for context that speakers can even hum the language to each other and be understood. See, this is why I love languages so much. The way us humans communicate, it really is extraordinary. Feast your eyes on a little written sample. So few letters, so much meaning. But okay, what's the hardest of all these sounds that they make?
To make it, they hold their tongue in position for a T sound against the teeth, then release it with that sputtering lip trill. I see why this sound is rare.
Now you know how to write it too. It is the Pirahã language, spoken by a tribe of about 350 people in the Amazon. The only two other languages that use this sound are at least 500 kilometers away. Another world away, there's an extraordinary sound that might be my favorite of them all. You'll know this one, so guess quickly.
Which means you set my heart on fire.
Some nice romantic words for you there. Recognize any particularly unusual sounds? Well, look for this letter. When you say it, there's no vibration at all in your vocal cords. It's all here. Listen.
Slur. Slur.
This sound is the cornerstone of, you guessed it, did you? Navajo. Now, apparently the Navajo word for dog is particularly challenging because it starts with this funny L letter followed by a glottal stop. Any Navajo speakers here to confirm in the comments? There's only one other language I know of that makes a sound like this, although they use it very, very differently.
For non-Welsh speakers, a lot of them pronounce it as cl or thl. Words like cyllell, lleill, llanuwchlyn.
And if you're learning Welsh and want some reading practice, well, I have a great book right here I can thoroughly recommend, although I am a bit biased, obviously. So I was about to make this all about Navajo until a friend reminded me of the longest string of consonants I've ever seen.
With this beast of a word, 21 characters long. So that should be pronounced something like... That took me so many tries and the pronunciation was still terrible. And here's a question, how many syllables was that word? Like, there's no vowel, so how do you sound out the syllables? Well, the answer, not even linguists know.
That's nothing. Wait till you hear a fluent person speaking Nuhulk.
So I'd say Yakasoshlumts. Yakasoshlumts. I'm playing ball. Now if I say let's play Yakasoshlmich, we are playing Yakasoshlmichat. Let's play now.
How do people even manage to learn native American languages? It makes you feel silly for complaining about French. Now, we're almost at the truly gangster part where the entire language is so hard to pronounce that by the time native speakers are adults, they've grown a lump on their larynx. It is absolutely mad. But first, I give you a deceptively beautiful alphabet where the sounds look like hearts. It's one of the oldest languages in existence with elvish-looking letters that can be difficult to distinguish between, and 3 of them have no sound equivalents at all in English.
Let me present to you the one and only. In order to pronounce it, you need to try to pronounce the ejected sound as far back in your throat as possible.
Bachaki tqaushi qiqinebs. Bachaki tqaushi.
But like I said, not only one sound is going to trip you up. See what else your antennae can pick up.
რომელმან შექმნა სამყარო ძალითა მიძლიერითა ზეგარდ მოარსნი სულითა ყვნაზე ცით მონაბერითა ჩვენ კაცთა მოგვცა ქვეყანა გვაქვს უთვალავი ფერითა მისგან არს ყოვლი ხელმწიფე სახითა მის მიერითა.
Okay, so clearly this is going to be a very difficult language to learn. Gotcha. But I can tell you one amazing secret. It's one of the most phonetic languages in existence. 33 letters and exactly 33 sounds to match those letters. There's no weird changing vowels like French. Sound promising? Well, if you think your vocal cords can take the abuse, well, try it out.
With khuti and hepa.
The sound is called an ejective consonant, and you will find it in the Caucasian languages. Super hard to learn. And the winner, of course, for today is, well, it's Georgian. But that's not the only crafty sound. Georgian has quite a lot of letters like this, quite similar to a glottal stop, and to get it right, you need pretty precise coordination. It's fun, isn't it? How's your larynx getting on? Well, I hope you've been warming up nicely, because here comes trouble. It's the language with the most sounds of any language on earth. The hardest, the most bizarre, the most loudest, the most just give us a drum roll. Close your eyes so you can listen. There's a little pronunciation trick here. Where in the world are we now? Anybody know? Well, open your eyes and look at this word. See the exclamation marks? This is not punctuation here. These are sounds, and they're absolutely brilliant. They allow you to pack an absolute boatload of information into small words. Yeah, I am speechless too. My brain does not want to accept this is human language. Parents, if you are looking for baby names, well, try these.
Coco.
So what's the country and what's the language? Well, if you're guessing somewhere in Africa, you're absolutely right. Africa has some pretty wild sounds. One of the rarest sounds in the world sounds a little bit like a kiss.
To make it, speakers close their tongue against the back of the mouth and also close both lips, but don't purse them. 2 closures. Then, using the tongue, they suck a pocket of air into that enclosed area. Finally, they let go of the lips and out pops a...
You've probably heard about these famous clicking sounds in some African language, but none can compare with Khoisan languages. Nobody knows exactly how many clicks they have, but it's a lot. This is the Ta language of Botswana and Namibia, from the first people of southern Africa. It has more than 200 different sounds. You know how many English has? 44. And because of all those clicks, adults actually grow a lump on their larynx. And now a sneaky bonus and your ultimate test, even harder than a click. If you want to get some weird looks, well, here's a sound that you can easily do, but I'm warning you, there is a very weird twist here. Little does Brittany know that she's doing something extremely rare in languages here, but it actually really exists in some oceanic languages. And if you want a challenge that will completely drive you insane, totally bonkers actually, because it should be impossible, now just add a trill to the Brittany L. Not possible for me. If you can make that sound, I think you win the entire internet. And now that you're all experts on impossible sounds, are you ready for entirely impossible languages? Because there's more absurdity out there than just pronunciation.